friends, longtime community folks going back to the OnDat Storage OS and my Cloud Native Storage days, your Cloud Native Storage days. So they have been friends and family for many years. It's a small community, right? We've all been part of it. It's all Cloud Native adjacent in one way or another.
Awesome. Well, I want to give a shout out to the fact that you're all here. And because you're here, we are going to be donating money to Deaf Kids Code. So if you've never looked at Deaf Kids Code, have a look at their website. We can put it in the chat. It's a really great organization. So we'll do that after this. And I am super excited for this next panel. This next panel is Observability in Platform Engineering. And we have an amazing lineup of speakers. So I am going to start bringing them all in. Stevie's coming in first, our moderator, Stevie. We have Khallai bringing you in. I have Kokilavani that I'm bringing in. Iris, you're coming in. And Hazel, I'm bringing you in.
Such a great panel.
I got everybody. Yes.
Hi, Kokilavani. Thank you for joining. Kokila is joining us from India. Thank you very much for staying up late. Stevie, I think this has got to be your at least sixth Kube Crash. We love having you. So thank you so much for coming back.
Yeah, I live here, apparently.
Yeah, we live here. Hazel, also Kube Crash alum. Thank you so much. Yeah, and Iris, I think it's your first time joining us at Kube Crash.
It is, yes.
Okay, and Khallai, thank you also for joining us this time around.
All right, with that, we're going to hand over to Stevie and let you take it away. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. So yeah, welcome everyone. We have a wonderful panel for you today titled Observability and Platform Engineering, Balancing Visibility and Performance. As Danielle said, my name is Stevie Caldwell. I'll be moderating today. I'm a senior technical lead for our SRE team at Fairwinds, where we do managed Kubernetes. And I'm joined here today by four incredible panelists who are going to share their thoughts about observability. And I'm going to actually give everyone a chance to introduce themselves and also to answer the very first question, which will be, tell us one thing you wish you had known at the beginning of your observability journey. So let's start with Hazel.
Hey there. My name is Hazel. I have thoughts, lots of thoughts. They never stop thinking. They never stop thinking. And I'm really excited to be here today as a fellow of the Nivenly Foundation, as well as someone who's on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing working group with the CNCF. So as far as things that I really wish I knew when I was starting observability, I think something that would have been really impactful for me was figuring out, just because you personally have figured out how to instrument something or how to figure out how to get value from the platform and value from the vendors, doesn't mean that anybody else in the company is figuring it out. And often the most impactful thing you can do is make it easier for other people to understand it and play with it.
Okay, cool. Let's see, Khallai, how about you? Oh, I think you're muted still. Yeah, can't hear you. Nope. Okay. Well, do you want to, we'll go to, let's go to Iris in the meantime.
Hello. So my name is Iris Dyrmishi. I'm a senior observability engineer at Miro. I think observability, I sleep and dream about observability. I'm also a CNCF ambassador. So about one thing that I wish I knew about observability, I know this is going to sound a little bit weird, but it would be that observability is so cool. So I started my career 6 years ago, and everyone was looking for DevOps, platform engineers, CI/CD pipelines, deploy Kubernetes cluster. Nobody spoke about observability. So I was kind of thrown into it, and then I joined, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool and so amazing. And 6 years later, I still haven't gotten bored of it. Every day is a new challenge, and it's getting better and better every day.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. That it's a ever-changing landscape. So it seems like you'll always have something new to learn to do. So that's very cool. And Kokilavani, is that cool to call you that? I heard. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
that's right.
How about you?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Kokila. I'm an engineering manager at Intuit. So, as Iris mentioned very closely, like sleep and dream about observability is like a very cool thing. So, I lead a team of observability experts. So, my team had like I'm specialized in tracing, real user monitoring, performance data. So, that's what I'm specialized in. So the one thing which I would have known when we started this journey, and you called it right, Steve, that it's not a destination, it's a journey. It's like it's keeps on going ever and ever, and the technologies change very frequently, and new things come up in the market. So one thing which we should have known when we started this journey is that releasing a capability is not the only thing which brings you up to the success. We should have an adoption plan so that the teams should value what the capability is going to deliver them. Let's say with respect to tracing or with respect to all the new observability stuffs coming in, the actual product team should understand what the new benefit or what the cool benefit that it brings to them. So once we provide that value to them, then the adoption becomes very easier. So that is where I thought I should have known it earlier when I started this journey.
Oh, that's really that's interesting because it actually ties into one of our questions really nicely. But Khallai, first, are you unmuted now? Oh no. That's bad news. So, oh, she dropped. Oh, well, I guess we'll continue, and hopefully she'll be able to pop back in and participate when her audio things are resolved. So for now, we'll keep going. So, as I was saying, this dovetails really nicely into one of our questions, which is about how, when you're building self-service platforms, do you design observability in such a way that the developer experience isn't one where they feel burdened with having to do like extra work, or like it's not a pain essentially for them to do this, that you've got buy-in by them. Oh, how about now, Khallai? No, you have the right mic selected in your backstage and everything. I'm so sorry.
So this is why everybody should learn sign language.
It's an excellent point. My ASL is super rusty back in college days, so I would not even attempt. Okay, so when building self-service platforms, Kokila, since you started with this, you want to elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So when we started the journey, again, there were a few applications which were running in production. How do we integrate that is question one. And how about the new changes? Like any new services or anything that comes up, it should have the things integrated rather than like running around people for migration and stuffs. So one thing which at Intuit we took a step is that to make changes or to integrate the changes along with the paved road experience. So at Intuit we have a paved road experience of almost everything. So any new assets that get created, it could be a backend service or it could be a front end plugin, anything. We already have the paved road setup. So this is mainly to improve the developer experience and developers productivity. So we integrated most of the things with the paved road so that new things are taken care.
Okay.
And that is the one main important thing that we had taken up. And one other thing is that rather than having any proprietary technologies, if we are aligned towards the open standards, it's very easier to move towards that. And because it's like a very vast industry and there's so many people who are contributing towards it, it moves very fast, and it's very easier for us to move in the same direction if we are aligned to those standards rather than having some proprietary technologies. Yeah, this is from my side. Yes,
for sure.
I would like to from others as well, like what they do.
Awesome. Yep, that all makes sense. Anyone else have anything they want to add to that question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. You can go ahead, Hazel.
One of the things that I like to add there is when I think of developer experience for the platform or just for what people are doing, there's kind of two elements of it. There's the seed in the soil. For the soil, can you enable the right conditions to happen for people to use the platform effectively? So what you really want for observability is you want to be able to progress from sort of, here's the data, now I can think about the problem, to now I can explore the system and learn from it and teach it and understand it and work that way. And, ooh, I heard a tap from the microphone.
I did too.
Anyway,
Yes, I heard a voice.
Okay, you guys can hear me now?
Yeah.
we can hear you. Perfect.
Thank God. Okay, thank you.
And then there's the seed. Can you give people sort of the inspiration to plant things in the ground? So you want to actually have people playing with the observability tooling. You want to make it delightful to play with. You want to make it something that, because that's how people learn. Like, we don't learn by memorizing, times tables or weird facts or reading through documents. We memorize by playing with stuff. We learn by playing with things. And so if your developers can play with it, then they can actually go through that. And so you need to give them the room to play with it, both in technology and then also as an observability or platform team. How do you give them that? Do you need to do a bunch of work for them so that the initial bootstrapping is done? Do you need to set up some guardrails for them? Do you need to set up some helper things? How can you get them to where they can start playing with it? Because if they have to do a whole bunch of extra work, they have their whole backlog, they have their whole roadmap, they have everything else. They're just not going to get to the plane. And if they can't do that, they're not going to use it. And if they're not going to use it, they're not going to learn, and the system isn't going to get better.
Yeah, excellent. Or you just give them pretty dashboards. That's always a good way to draw people in and make them want to pay attention to your observability. I know I was always attracted to pretty dashboards. Like, ooh, where did all this data come from? And that's a good entry point. Khallai, now that you are on, do you want to introduce yourself and speak to building self-service platforms?
Yeah, sure. I'm assuming everybody can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, I'm Khallai Taylor. Was that me? Okay, I work for E.ON. I started as a senior observability engineer, and now I've moved on to governance. So I work with Cloud Native with our engineering office for our entire organization, and building self-service platforms. We are relatively new to the observability journey, and we are finding all type of ways to get creative. The number one thing is that we're trying to ensure that we have buy-in to make sure the engineers are actually using our observability platform in the way it's meant to be. So we built a community around that in order to engage folks into it and to be able to help them upskill to learn the query language. We use New Relic, so it's Oracle, and that has definitely been challenging but rewarding, to say the least. So yeah.
And I'm sorry, Iris, you said you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, I can always speak about observability, so you can always count on me for that. So I agree with everything that was just said until now. How I would describe it is that the observability should be like an out-of-box solution. So when you are wanting to deploy a new application, you shouldn't have to schedule a meeting with the observability team to make sure that your data is being collected. So how that happens, it's not magic, of course. It happens with a lot of collaboration with other platform engineering teams. The observability team collaborates with some compute team or whoever is facilitating this move or this creation of the application. So even if you create 1,000 applications during the night, they're going to be detected automatically. All your data is going to be collected. So that's the minimum that we could offer, right? But then, of course, there is more that we can do. Dashboarding. Of course, an observability team is not going to build your dashboards for you most of the time because you know your data best. But even inside an organization, it's open source. So if a team is creating this beautiful dashboard that can be used by several other applications, for example, let's see the basic things like your pod CPU, memory, how the health is going, it can be reused everywhere. So there you go. You have some basis of observability. Same for alerting. This very basic things that can be reused by everyone. And of course, once you have the data and you have some visibility, then you get that, okay, I want to explore more. I want to improve this. I want to put my knowledge and what I know about my application and make it your playground and perfect it.
Awesome. Great. So thank you all for your input there. As an SRE, you know, one of the things that I've seen is obviously sometimes you get overloaded with data, overloaded with metrics. Like anyone who's ever, you know, deployed a Prometheus stack to a cluster just de facto knows like how much stuff comes in and the deluge of data. So how do you prioritize what data and signals actually matter for platform teams and developers? Hazel, how about you take that one?
So this is one of my favorite types of questions because people really, really want a solid, objective, scientific answer for this. And it turns out if you combine about 5 different disciplines in math and you have about 15 pages of formulas, you can take a distributed system, a cardinality of it, and draw a coherent explanation for how to measure, but nobody's got time for that. And when you look at the paper and when you look at the research of how to do that, they all go, assume you have this magical way to figure out how relevant every sort of data point is. And this is not the whole reason you're doing that. So I have to explain to people, you can't get this objective, responsible sort of, distance back approach to understanding what's valuable and what's not. You can't do it. There's rules of thumb. There's patterns you can do. There's techniques you can start with. And then you gotta just sit there and know your application, know your system, and figure out what's relevant for you. If you're in an environment where you need to experiment with things like sampling and other stuff like that, a pattern that I particularly like with the OpenTelemetry collector is you take everything, no sampling, dump it into a bucket. And then you take a whole bunch of sampling, and once you do all the sampling, then you actually ship that over into your actual backend. And if you're missing anything, you can find it in the bucket. And that gives people the feeling of safety that they need in order to be much more aggressive or forward in dropping things that they think that they might need, and it turns out that they don't. So when you're looking at things, think of it as what's your signal noise ratio. Start from there, and then you're just going to have to play with it. So give yourself the safety to play with it. Work with the observability team to provide that, and then just dive in and go for it.
Okay, I see. So you're saying that there's no magic button that's like, these are the things that you definitely should do, that it's really tailored towards what the needs of your organization or your department are. And you just sort of have to collect everything and sort that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
When people want a magic button, what they want is the magic result. And the magic button for things like this is a process. You can follow the process, but you're following the process. You're not just copying and pasting steps and getting the output. The process is start from here, tune some parameters, and then now you have to play with it.
Okay, interesting. So this sort of is related because there is cost associated with gathering data, right? So and I'm going to throw this question to you, Iris. How do you approach in that sort of in that method? How do you approach balancing the needs for visibility with cost pressure, especially as telemetry volumes grow with microservices and multi-cloud environments?
Yeah, this is, it goes back to what we were saying before, that the teams have ownership of the data that they are sending. This is the most important factor for me when it comes to controlling costs and controlling what you're actually sending. So this could be two ways. It could be that, okay, a team is like, I want to send everything. I saw what I sent on the sandbox and I like absolutely everything. And here, of course, consultation with observability team is needed for us to actually understand what is really important. If you really need this label that is giving this completely unnecessary information that is killing us with cardinality, so that's important. But on the other side, you have these engineers that are knowing their applications so well. They know what alerts they've been building, what dashboard they're using every day. They know what they are using when they have an incident. So it's very easy to take these matters to them and say, okay, we are sending too much data. Is there anything that we can do here? And because they have this expertise, that is really going to help reduce the cost, but at the same time keep the quality of the information that we are collecting and we are querying perfect. Because if it was me as an observability engineer going to their code and just messing with their data just for the sake of saving costs, because I say, okay, this is not important, maybe it's not important to me, that's maybe we will save some costs, but we're going to lose a lot when it comes to investigating, when it comes to visibility. So I would say that the key for this is ownership of the data and working closely with the observability team to understand what you actually need, what you don't, if you can do things better. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to that topic?
Yeah, sure. I want to add something on that front. With respect to logs and metrics, yeah, like because it's completely under application team's control, where we need to work with them and see what we can do. But the team which I handle, which is a tracing, so there we have a full control of what we generate. And the good thing about there is we have kind of a control on how much sampling we can apply on that data. So initially we started with the probabilistic sampling. Let's say we sample only 30% of the traces, but then the problem there, like it's always 30%. So success you will get 30%, even the errors you will only get the 30%. So generally people they are not interested in the success cases. Even though out of 100 requests, let's say 30 requests are passing, I don't care. But if there are 10 requests failing, I want to see all the 10 requests. Don't sample there. So that is where we started thinking about it. And recently we have introduced something called intelligent sampling, which industry hasn't solved yet, because we have tail sampling in place, but tail sampling is very costlier because we have to collect all the data and then in the tail end we have to sample it. It's very costlier. So we had cracked the solution with the data, which is mainly the sampled trace IDs, getting communicated between the OTel agents, the agents that is running in every cluster. So it doesn't know about the complete trace data, which is like a very huge, but it will know only about the trace IDs, which is the 64-bit data that gets communicated across all the agents. So now with that being done, now we are able to, it's a configuration driven. So you can say error, you sample 100%, or it can be an attribute based. If you see this attribute in the trace, you go ahead and sample it, and it is very much configurable. So now with all that in place, we can tune that sample only, let's say 10% or even 1% of the success cases, sample 100% of error cases, plus extra attribute based sampling, or we can have such an intelligence in that. So that is one way where we could, because now we know like out of million requests, there would be only like few thousands that is failing. We don't want to save or store all the million requests in our backend because no one cares. So that is where we were able to reduce the cost to a major extent actually, with this sampling in place. One more point to add is with respect to the performance data that we handle. Rather than storing the raw data for a longer duration, we reduce the retention of the raw data for a very lesser, let's say for 7 days, and we started rolling up the data. So the raw data is getting aggregated, and then we roll up the data. Let's say on a daily roll up, it could be hourly roll up, in a minutely roll up as well. So once we have a rolled up data, it's just a metric. So which means the raw data is converted into a metric and in a rolled up format. Now it's up to the developers. Like they can see the history, like how this metric was like let's say a month before, and they can see the actual raw data for 7 days. So that is like another cost saving that we could achieve. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is all internal that you all have developed yourselves, or are you using? Okay. Very nice.
Internal in the sense, we use OpenTelemetry to generate the traces,
Mm-hmm.
but the backend system which is handling these traces are all internal. It's a homegrown.
Okay. Wow. Well done. Okay, cool. Let's see. So I'm going to throw a question your way, Khallai. Let's see. So open standards. Kokila was just talking about OpenTelemetry. So open standards like OpenTelemetry, they promise easier instrumentation and vendor neutrality. So how are you approaching OpenTelemetry adoption, and what challenges do you think others should be aware of?
So, since we're at the very beginning stages, in my opinion, of rolling out observability, the metrics that the telemetry data that we're focused on are metrics for right now. And in order to ensure that we can be vendor neutral and have control over our data, we're trying to get some teams, select teams who are willing to do it, to work with OpenTelemetry collector, so the OTel collector. The challenges we've found is getting people to understand the importance of semantic conventions and getting them to actually read through the documentation to learn how to properly set up the OTel collector in order for it to work properly and filter that data first into the OTel collector before going into the New Relic agent. So we're working on this. We're taking baby steps, but it is going in a positive direction. We're seeing results and we're gaining buy-in by using the OTel collector. So I think that's a positive, and I think it's a win, especially in an industry that's heavily regulated like energy. We have to be very careful on how we're working with our data and which data we send over that we're able to observe with these vendors.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine you have like retention policies that have to be adhered to and things like that. So
Absolutely.
that also adds to like your cost and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
things we're talking about. Yeah.
And there's a cap on how much data can be sent out and how much can be filtered. So we have things in place to make sure that we have guardrails.
Okay. So let's see. AI is everywhere. It's in everything now. So AI and ML are being increasingly applied to observability data. Where do you see the most value and the biggest limitations in AI-driven observability today? Why don't we start with you, Kokila, and then everyone else can chime in.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you pointed it right. AI is everywhere, and we can't do anything much about it. Like we have to move towards the pace. We don't have choice basically. How do we use AI? Is with anomaly detection, obviously.
Mhm.
So we have multiple metrics flowing in. So what do we do is with traces, even with metrics, we collect something called golden signals. So you remember the question that you asked about like what is the common thing or what is the important metric that we have to capture across, where
Mhm.
we got to know that it's a very vast thing which is very application specific and all that. So what we try to do is we try to come up with something called golden signals. So for every service, golden signals are a bit different. How do you define health is up to the team. But we have not only the health, but we have utilization metric, we have latency metric, we have requests, errors. These are all comes under golden signals. So these golden signals are fed to our anomaly system, where it calculates anomalies, and if it sees a deviation, that is where the AI comes into picture. So all these data are fed to this anomaly detection engines, and it generates a scores, and based on that, we make the main thing is to reduce our MTTD whenever there is a problem.
Mm.
The another thing which we are trying right now is something called incident recovery. So MTTD is right now fine; it's way under control. So we are get to know about the problem within 3 minutes. So our MTTD is within 3 minutes. But the problem right now we are facing is with recovery, which is MTTR. So now I know that there is a problem, but how do I recover faster? How can we use AI in that level? Like, how do we use AI for recovery basically? So for that, we are right now working towards a program called Incident Recovery, where we are trying to surface multiple informations upfront and can have these agents like AI agents doing those checks, what is happening, and if there's any human interactions that happen, sometimes many a times it would be like auto scaling, or it could be like restarts. So can an agent do it? So that is what we are trying out right now. So this will obviously, because agent can take a decision very quickly rather than involving the developer, and that is where it takes more time when it comes to an incident.
Mhm.
So how do we involve these AI in that thread is the current I can't say it's a limitation as such, but that is where the current research is going on.
Okay, that's interesting. So essentially trying to do like self-repair, but using
Exactly.
AI to make it faster. I'm sure people on call would love to see that implemented,
Exactly.
especially for small things that are easily fixed. Like if for whatever reason there's you know, well, I guess if you're deploying an image that's not there, there's probably a human involved. But things like that, pod restarts for reasons, and auto scaling, like you said, that's really interesting. Anyone else want to chime in here?
I can chime
Yeah.
in. Oh, sure. I was
Again.
just a
Thank you. So I'm a big fan of AI in observability. Actually, we don't have a lot of experience using it, but some use cases that I've seen that maybe they're too simple. But for example, just anomaly detection, we've always wanted to do it properly, and we even use standard deviation in our queries in the past. Don't ask me why. It made sense, like it worked somehow. But now it's so much better with AI. Simple things as like building queries to query your logs, your traces, your metrics. I've been working observability for a long time now, and sometimes I need some time to build a query. And when you have a buddy next to you and you can ask, can you help me build this query or search for this data, and it builds it for you, it's pretty awesome. Some other things that I've explored myself, and it's the trends of the events that are happening or the error detections. But of course, nothing is as good as the human eye. They always need to be checked and make sure that everything is okay. And sometimes some downfalls might come because the data is not labeled properly. It's not in a standard way, so this could cause for the models not to give you the answers that you would like as a user. But generally, yeah, I'm a big fan, and I'm really looking forward to what more we are going to get through it, mostly on the data analyzation, because it could save a lot of time from an engineer on call to get the answers without having to spend hours at 3 a.m. in the morning to go through the logs and the traces.
For sure. And Hazel, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is important, at least for me to keep in mind, is AI looks very powerful, but it's actually only good at two things. AI is good at syntactical translation, which is vector translation. It's also good at pattern prediction, not recognition or detection. But you can use it for those other things, and it's good at those because you predict the pattern, and if it doesn't match that pattern, then you detect an anomaly. But it's not actually detecting an anomaly, so you can't reason about how it's doing it. It's predicting a pattern, then you use the universe anyway. So if I look at the pattern prediction for observability, we have some great answers already on how that looks, and we have a better idea of how to use that. But the syntactical translation one is actually the thing that I think has the most potential for systems. And that one of my favorite examples of that is actually taking a natural language sentence and translating that into a query. Can I say, hey, I want to see this service for the last hour, and I want to figure out why the error rate is high, and then it can take that and then turn that into a reasonable query for you as a starting point. That's great. It gets people playing with the system. I love things that get people playing with the system. I want more of those. And things like, we don't even have this in the industry, but if we had, oh, it looks like you are instrumenting this application, and it looks like this. Well, a lot of other people who do that also add these attributes. Well, a lot of people that do this also sample this thing, or they also have these types of SLOs in there, and you can build that in your own company, especially if it's large enough. You can say oh, hey, there's a giant soup of what everybody does. Is there something that this team is doing that this team could be aware of? Can AI help you surface that? You can build that fairly easily with an AI SDK, and that can provide a ton of value for platform teams.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else have anything they want to add to that? No? All right. And then let's move on to the next. So I'm going to just toss this one out here because I don't know who actually has an example, but can someone share an example of a time when observability data directly prevented or significantly shortened a major incident?
I was waiting for someone to answer. Yeah, I can chime in actually.
Right. It's a tricky one.
Yeah. See, it had helped us a lot. Like not a single situation, there are multiple occurrences. Because I told, right, like our anomaly detections, it can detect the problem way before it can happen. So we have something called failed customer interactions, which is we define a logical workflow called an interaction, which all the plugins are instrumented with. So any workflow, it could be, let's say, login could be one workflow, or adding an account number could be another workflow. So anything that happens there, that metrics using OpenTelemetry JavaScript, though, we instrument those applications, we collect the data, and any problem that happens on the UI layer, which is, let's say, with the customers, we get to know it way faster rather than them complying. So within 3 minutes, we should be able to know that there is something wrong with this workflow. Let's say multiple people are, let's say, failing sign-ins. Rather than someone complaining, we'll get to know within 3 minutes. And within 3 minutes, we can involve right people, because once we have an incident or alert, because we that data is also fed to an anomaly system, and anomaly detection kicks in. It says, okay, there is something wrong, your anomaly scores are spiking up. It will in turn triggers a pager duty alert, which in turn involves right people as soon as possible. Then we'll get to know the real problem, then fix it immediately. So this would had solved us many a time from a bigger problem.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one such example that I can share.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to add something here, because the awkward silence at the beginning sounds as if we're not believing on the things that we're saying, but it's not true.
It's like, this is great. We love observability. It's important. How has it helped us exactly? Yeah, no.
No, it does help a lot. I was skeptical to speak a little bit because, of course, I do not want to provide it with examples, real life scenarios, because, of course, they're confidential and needed only for the ears of the teams. But I can say that the way that I talk about the collaboration and ownership in observability has really helped a lot. Many times incidents have been prevented because alerting was done properly, because data was collected properly and dashboards were created properly by the teams, because they knew exactly what they needed to build, and they did. So before the incident even happened, we knew, or they knew, what was going to happen. So yeah, I have a lot of testimonies. Of course, I cannot share a specific case, but it has helped a lot. I promise you this. The silence was not due to not believing in it or that it doesn't work.
I think it's kind of important to point out that like AI for predictive observability helps with the teams that are working with LLMs for mean time to detection when it comes to security. So they're able to see anomalies before it happens, or be able to see if an incident is about to occur before it does occur. At least we have a team working on this now and trying to improve upon it. So I think there's a lot of positives coming out of AI when it comes to observability, specifically for the security aspect of it. Just wanted to chime in on that one. I was thinking about it as everybody was talking.
No, excellent. I'm glad you did.
Since you're all going ahead and explaining why we were silent, my reason was actually that I had to dig through and go, what am I allowed to talk about? And so, in terms of what I'm allowed to talk about, I would say that one of the things that's tricky about quantifying the value of observability in terms of, has it reduced incidents or has it sped up the resolution of incidents, is those are things that don't generalize, the things you can't learn from, because every incident's different. If you say, oh, we solved this incident in 5 minutes, I'm like, was that because of the tooling, or because someone guessed incorrectly, or because that one just happened to be solved? Like, do you know? And so one of the things that I think about and that I look for is not mean time to detection or mean time to anything, because those metrics can give you the wrong insight into whether or not people are getting value from it. They're useful metrics as kind of a lagging indicator of, are things improving? But if you just look at the metrics and you optimize them, you're not going to optimize for people getting value out of it. You're going to optimize for the metrics. Mean time to detection goes down. Are people learning anything useful, or are the alerts just going on faster?
So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm going to ask Hazel then, what would you say is something that you would use to determine whether or not the observability that you've put in place is helpful and is beneficial?
I look for people using it to learn, people using it to teach others about the system. Like if someone says, hey, how does this work? And then people say, oh, here's the code. But if they say, oh, here's the code, and also here's the SLOs for it, and also here's the, maybe the dashboard for it, or maybe the, observability section, here's where you can query things. If they start talking about, oh, if you want to learn what the system does, here's the code and here's the system. That's what I look for. Or I look for proactive work. So proactive work is where a lot of the value of observability can really sort of be quantified. If I, as a product manager, say, oh, let's see, is it worth it to add caching in this area of the application on the roadmap feature? Like I have a couple different features that we have. I only have time in the roadmap for 2 out of 3. Do I add the performance improvement in there? Or do I add the reliability improvement in there? We can't, compromise the customer feature. So I have to choose between performance and reliability right now. If they go to the developer and say, hey, which one do I prioritize? And the developer says, my vibes have me, my guts is telling me, we're gonna and then they just point at one? Okay, fine. Maybe they're right. Intuition's really powerful. But if they say, you know what, let me play with the tools a little bit. And, oh, actually, our reliability is doing really good right now. But the caching would be super, super beneficial. Or maybe, you know what, we already have pretty good caching. Adding that wouldn't change a whole lot of stuff. But we need better failover. Or we need better, that's where the observability tooling really shines. Because people are using it, they're always going to use it for the incidents. They're always going to use it for when things are broken. It's when things aren't broken, and they're using it to make the system better, that you start preventing, that you start improving, and you start proactively responding where you need to. And its value is now multiplicative rather than, additive.
This is really interesting because we have been throughout this conversation touching more on like the reactive aspects of observability, how it helps us resolve issues and detect problems in our platforms, in our systems. And we haven't really talked about using it in a proactive way to really make your applications, your workloads better, to make the response times for your applications faster, things like that, being able to build a roadmap going forward for making improvements. So that's a really interesting perspective to bring to the conversation, for sure. Okay, so I guess, one thing that I'd like to ask all of you is if you could leave the folks watching this with one piece of advice for making observability a first-class citizen in platform engineering, what would it be? And let's start with you, Khallai.
I think it's important to help developers understand, not just managers or product owners, but the actual devs themselves, understand why observability is important and understand how easy it is to use, especially if they're used to using Prometheus. It's very easy to start using observability, start getting started with the OTel collector, and just start diving deeper into the world of observability. So it's really important for us to get the people that are working on these things every day behind it and excited, and not just having a top-down approach, which is kind of happening my way. So I think that's very important.
All right. How about you, Iris?
Well, I'll go along the same lines. I would say listen to your customers. I don't know if we could talk to name our developers customers, but
Sure.
that's what I mean. Listen to them and work with them and for them, because we are here talking about building these amazing observability platforms, but all our organizations are different. All the needs of the organizations are different, and all the developers working and technologies are different. So we have to be able to adapt to them, to listen to them, to know what they need from us, and for us to provide the best possible solution. Of course, it's not always okay. I want to have 3 terabytes of logs in 15 seconds from my application. Not this kind of scenario, of course, but it's very important to know their expectations, to properly show the tools that you are providing and how to use them, and to work together all the time to improve this.
And how about you, Kokila?
Totally, I understand. I mean, I get those 2 points. Like, getting to know their problem is more important. Providing an innovative solution is even more important. So they are impressed with that. Once they are impressed, then our job is done. That because the point again, which I mentioned in the beginning, right? We providing a capability is like I would say only like 30% effort, but we show the true value of that capability is where the main thing comes in. With respect to observability, it should, how I feel is, it should not be a separate thing where you have to go market it and all that. It should be tied towards whatever we are building. So we should establish in such a way so that the developers might should not feel any difference about okay, I have to do a separate item for observability. It should be tied towards whatever their development life cycle is. Then during in production, it should show its true value.
Okay. And how about you, Hazel?
So with this, I think of things in, if I want to make something the first class element of a platform, that's actually not my call, because it's the people using the platform that are going to determine what in the platform is most important to them. So if I think of observability in that reactive and proactive sense, for things that are very, very valuable for them, the more proactive it is, the more valuable it's going to be. So what is proactive with observability? And if I'm designing a system, or if I'm running it, or if I'm building it, there's trade-offs and there's planning. So I want my observability aspect of the platform to assist developers, product managers, program managers, all the people involved in building the system to be able to make trade-offs better and to be able to plan better. So I actually, when I'm building an observability platform, I go, hey, so how do you think about planning your features? How do you think about planning and building a system? How do you think about your trade-offs? What are they? And then I go build a lot of that into the system if I can. Maybe they're like, oh, I need a dashboard for this. Maybe I need my building signals. Maybe they're like, I really need to understand if I need to horizontally or vertically scale it. Oh, I'll make sure that's easy for you so that you can do it. Or they go, oh, I need to know how many nines reliability I have, and I need to understand my dependencies because we have a very service-oriented architecture and teams depend on each other. Cool, let's build that for you. If I need to, like, well, what do they need? Proactively, what do they need in order to communicate with each other better? And that's where, for building the observability platform, things tend to sort of become highlighted. One thing that I also try and do to sort of, in general, is pepper links everywhere. Everything should have a link. Every link should be unique. If I see on the page what I want to see, I should be able to copy the URL, send it to you, you open it, and you see the exact same page that I do. At no point should that be untrue. And so I make that as true as possible. And then I can stick these links everywhere. If I run a test suite, here's a link. Here's the results in test suite. If you have some Slack, chat ops thing going off, here's a link. Everybody gets the same, result when they click the link. None of this, oh, did you vote to this thing right? Did you click this little cogwheel? Or did you, you're looking at things from 2 months ago? None of that.
That makes sense. I've absolutely had situations where I've clicked a link and it's pulled up a different date or something along those lines, and just I'm not seeing what you're seeing, and it just adds one more layer of friction to trying to resolve an issue or get to, and adds frustration for everyone involved.
And having that frustration in the middle of an incident is just wild. It's one of the easiest ways for developers to no longer trust anything you build. They're like, what do you mean? I copy and pasted this link, and everybody spent 15 minutes figuring out, the date selection for the logs, rather than actually figuring out what the error message was.
Yeah.
That's not how you build the trust with them.
And you touched on a very important word, which is trust, and that is in many ways sort of an important element of getting people to adopt your observability solution, whatever it is, and regardless of where you put it or how you go about implementing it, whether it's baked in, during the development cycle, or whether it's created in reaction to feedback from developers. When they start losing trust for whatever reason, that's going to make the adoption of that platform, of that observability, that much harder. And it's much more difficult to get back. So we've got 2 minutes, and I have one last question for you all. Looking ahead, what's one trend or technology shift in observability or platform engineering in general that you're most excited or most concerned about? I'm going to call names so that we get through. I'm going to start with Kokila.
Sure. The latest one, which I'm more excited about right now, is now we know it's full of agents now. All AI is gone now. Now agents has come in. So now, how do we have observability for those agents? So agent calls, let's say, a backend API, or agent makes a decision to call the API. How do we make that observable? How do we know why that agent has taken such decision? Because obviously, as a developer, I wanted to know why agent has made that decision. And how do we connect these information, from the agent, let's say it calls some other backend API, or from API to agent, then to API. So you see there are multiple scenarios that is coming in. So how do we make those things, or integrating observability with agents? So that is where right now we are focusing on, and that is more exciting because it's all very new, and that is where I'm more interested in. Concern, I don't know.
Okay. Nothing scary on the horizon. That's good. That's good. Iris, how about you?
Honestly, for me, it's one simple answer. It's OpenTelemetry. It's not only the technology, because it's been in the market for 3 years now, maybe a little bit more, and it's getting adopted more and more, but it's also what it's bringing with it. It's standardization of the data, standardization of query languages, so many exporters, receivers, so much that you can do with the data on the transport level. It's really giving back the power to the self-hosted transport layer of data. So it's making it amazing, and it's creating some conversations and some initiatives that are very important for us. When it comes to concerns, it's again this one, because you hear of OpenTelemetry and many people think, oh, it's a wonder. If you have OpenTelemetry, all your issues are solved. So I am a little bit concerned about this kind of mentality or this kind of thought, because it could also lead to excessive costs, or losing data, or not treating your data properly, or migrating to OpenTelemetry too fast. But again, these are things that you learn. You make a mistake, you learn, and you get back on your feet. But yeah, in general, it's a very exciting movement that's happening right now in observability, thanks to OpenTelemetry.
Excellent. Really quickly, Khallai.
Yeah, so I heard about observability as code when I was at KubeCon, and I was like, what? So, that's supposed to be able to have your Ollie configs be able to automatically update when your infrastructure does. I want to see if that's going to actually work. So I'm very interested in this. So it has its good and its bad, but I'm rooting for it because it sounds like it would be great.
Awesome. That does sound really cool. And then last but not least, Hazel.
So I wrote this down because otherwise there's no way for me to answer this in less than 20 minutes. I'm going to give my best shot.
Yes.
So what I'm excited for is I'm excited for in the data backend implementation, shifting to a lakehouse architecture that allows you to have multiple different incoming streams of ingestion. You can have sort of a federated, heterogeneous data approach. Data can live in different places, and then it gets coalesced together in a really, really coherent manner. I'm really looking forward to that because it lets people do very weird things like support IoT, mobile devices. It can support other more esoteric environments, and it lets people play with the system, play with the data, and use it cross-functionally. Really looking forward to that. What I'm worried about is people indiscriminately spraying AI everywhere without understanding if it's actually adding value. I am looking forward to AI agents. I am looking forward to all the interesting things that we do with AI, but I can just see people smashing it into every feature, adding it everywhere, putting a bunch of AI code, AI instrumentation everywhere, and then going, oh, nothing's working, and now I don't understand any of the stuff that we wrote. And all the auto features aren't working. Now it's a mess. I'm looking forward to people doing useful things with AI, but I imagine that they're going to be way too eager about it, and I'm worried about that.
No, it's good to have a healthy wariness about with all technology. Honestly, all new technology, it's good to experiment and also go in with critical thinking and fully understanding what it is that you're implementing before you implement it, especially at scale or in your production environment. So we are that's our time, I believe. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you all for being here, for answering our questions. And here are Danielle and Lisa to kick us out.
Yeah, but I mean, before you leave, we have to say we enjoyed that so much. We're not supposed to have favorites, but that might be our favorite talk of the day. We really hope that you submit this whole panel should do this at KubeCon. I mean, definitely at Observability Day. Kokilavani, I know you spoke at the last Observability Day. It was a fantastic day. So all of you Observability fans, definitely hit the Colo Observability Day at KubeCon the day before, if you're not at ArgoCon, which you really should be at also. But either way, day 0, this would be fantastic. But also for main KubeCon, I hope you all submit this talk.
6 months from now, you'll be able to update us on all the things, the trends you just spoke about. So
that's right.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
Thank
with
you,
that,
everyone.
I'm going to slowly remove you all from the stage.
And thanks.